and the election of the new leadership. So that will be occurring during the course of the meeting. I did want to draw your attention to the annual report itself. I have, unlike most years, I've actually taken the time to read everything. And I am amazed at all we've done, and it's laid out here beautifully by each committee. So if you haven't had a chance to read it, please do. Christian has given us some wonderful thoughts about his first few months with us, some of the joys and some of the challenges, and it's so nice to hear from him, and please take the time to read that. My report is there. In the middle, you'll notice I'm on page, what am I on page? 9. The key to that report is that one sentence in the middle. Be sure to read all the committee reports to realize just how much we've accomplished. So please do. The team reports then follow. The enrichment team, we've had a vacation Bible school experience again, and we had the Christmas play, and that was really wonderful to be cooperating with other churches in the area. The facilities team, Tom probably didn't list half the stuff he's done, but there's a ton that has taken place. And the reason this building and grounds look so great is because of all the good work that's put in by Tom, by John, and others. Hospitality Friends in Christ, that committee has only gained momentum over the years. They are reaching out to those who really can't get here or who just simply need to be comforted, or we've been out of touch with them perhaps, but for a variety of sending them cards, giving them phone calls, taking things to them. It's a wonderful activity that they've been pursuing. The outreach team, we do a ton, and again, unless you see it written down in front of you, you really don't realize how active we are. We certainly have a significant budget where we simply send money, but almost an equal amount of effort is in free will offerings, things that you do, when you're called upon, whether it's disaster relief, neighbors in need, whatever the call might be, you respond. And then, of course, there's all the stuff we do as far as mittens and coats and health hygiene kits and whatever that might be. The congregation is incredibly responsive in that regard. The worship team, the different varieties of worship that we have, handling, I never know what to call these. I call them vestments. I know that's the wrong word. What are they called? Thank you. Changing the colors. The changing of the colors. The communion, which just took place, and other things as well. The Enduring Fund, on page 29, we gave roughly, $25,000, $24,000 to people and activities that were in need. And then we have the financial reports, and I'll be touching on those a little bit later. But there's a ton of financial information there that is worth digging into if you have the time and the interest. And then, of course, at the very end is the budget, which we'll be voting on later in the meeting. But again, I did want to kind of walk you through that because a couple of reasons. Number one, because people wrote the report, so I'd like you to read them. It's nice to kind of follow through on it. And the other thing is that as a community, we're a very small community, but we're a surprisingly active and involved community. And I really want people to be appreciative of what those around you have been doing and be aware of it. So that's my little opening chat in that regard. Moving on to, and does anyone, I'm going to stop and pause periodically and ask if anybody has anything to add or want to comment, and if you don't, that's perfectly fine. But I don't want to just steamroll through the meeting and I'll have you thinking I can't talk. Yeah, Tom has a mic.
Okay, all right. I just noticed that we have a report from our book club, and I always have just the greatest intention of attending and actually read the books sometimes. But I just think Laura has done an amazing job, and I've watched that program really gather steam over the years. So just a special thank you to you, Laura, for doing that.
Thanks, Chris. Any other thoughts at this point? Okay, the first order of business is pretty technical. The minutes are right at the front of the report. At this point, I would ask for the approval, so I need a motion to approve. Do I have such? Tom just raised his hand and moved. Is there a second? Okay. That was Ron. So you have a first and a second. Any discussion? Surprisingly not. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great. We've approved the minutes. Thank you very much. Let's see. Oh, I guess I kind of, in my welcoming parts, I actually did the next one, celebrating the year just completed. So I'll celebrate again. It's been a great year. Thank you all for all you've done. Any other comments in terms of the celebrations? Anyone want to pat someone else on the back or pat themselves on the back or cover something I missed? We got a new minister. Well, that's for sure. Every now and then, I can't see the forest for the trees or the trees for the forest, or I skip the number one item. Thank you for joining us. Financial update. Okay, this will lead into the, well, actually, I'm going to skip ahead. The election of the leadership. If you look on the very back page, we have a list of the leadership nominees. It looks remarkably similar to the list of leadership on the very front of the book. Most everybody has stepped up. That's sort of the characteristic of what happens when you're a small organization. Everybody just keeps doing what they do well and what needs to be done. There is one addition. In the Enduring Fund, we have two names, Chris Solso, Emily Gray, and Monica Edwards. That's a write-in candidate. So just to be sure, when you're voting, I want you to know that Monica will be joining the Enduring Committee as well. So, do I have what am I asking for? A motion, yes. Do I have a motion to approve, thank you, the leadership list? Better put my glasses back on. Yeah, Chris moved it. Do I have a second? Thank you, Matt. So we have a first and a second to approve the leadership. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you all.
List of people for Friends in Christ is there. We would welcome any people to join. We only meet probably 4 times a year, and we try to find times that are convenient for everybody. But it's a way that we reach out to people within our church community who maybe need a little bit of extra support, and we've sort of combined with hospitality as well, so we plan events and things like that. So if you have any ideas of something you'd like to do, we'd love to have you join us. Just tell me after the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, at the last council meeting, I was asked to share with the congregation. I'm going to trip on this. There we go, a little pirouette. I was asked to share with the congregation our financial situation at this point in time. And so to that event, rather than go through all of the detail that's in the report, I thought I would try to summarize it. Now, I'm going to start in the year 2001. I will not go year by year. Relax. I might lose my audience. The reason I started in 2001, which for some people you weren't here, and for others you were already here for 20 to 30 years. But the reason I picked that year is because that's the year the Enduring Fund began. And the Enduring Fund came as a result of our selling the property, our neighboring property there where we now have the houses. And we ended up with a fund of $593,000 as a result of that sale. At that time, our operating fund was $343,000. So we significantly increased our cash on hand, if you will, by that move. Oh yes, the Enduring Fund was structured as an endowment. In other words, the congregation was very conscious of the fact that we did not want that to be tapped into for operating expenses. We wanted it to accumulate it so that we could provide grants, over the course, the life of the fund itself. Okay, next slide. So now we're moving quickly. We've just gone through 2 decades, okay? We're now in 2021. The operating fund is now at $347,000. If you recall, it was $343,000 back in 2001. And we conducted the business of the church. We ran deficits. But the deficits were fairly modest, $30,000 to $50,000. I mean, modest, but $30,000 to $50,000, and they were covered by the investment income. So as a result, for 20 years, we were just having a very nice, stable operation. We were running deficits. It wasn't that big a deal. We were able to cover it. So basically, our operating fund is unchanged from 20 years ago, and the enduring fund has nearly doubled. It's gone from $500,000 up to $960,000. Now, if you recall, we can't use that money for operating expenses, but that's now where most of our money is. Next slide. So in the last few years, the trends have been somewhat unfavorable. A big hit was the stock market dropped about 20% in 2022, which of course took both funds down. Our expenses increased over that time. Our income was stable, so it was kind of holding at the same amount, but still that was a little bit lower than before 2022. And the budget deficits increased to roughly $100,000 annually. So instead of running $30,000 to $50,000 deficits that were covered by our investments, we were now running more significant deficits, some of which was covered by our investments, but not all. Next slide. So this is I could kind of point at this. No, the enduring fund has continued to grow, but the operating fund has declined dramatically. If you recall, in 2021, not on this slide, the operating fund was at $340,000. The next year it was at $260,000. The next year it was at $140,000. The next year it was at $50,000. So meanwhile, our total stays relatively constant at $1 million. So for all, if you're just looking at the bottom line, nothing's changed. But in fact, we now have probably not enough money in the operating fund to make it through the year without getting money from somewhere else. Where's the somewhere else? The enduring fund. Next slide. So it's likely we'll need to have to access the enduring fund this year. Maybe not. If we have a good investment year, we won't. So it's uncertain. But you're not comfortable going into a year with only $50,000 and projected deficits of 100. So if we have to tap into the enduring fund, that will require a vote from all of you. Now, Chris Solso is heading up the enduring fund. There will be meetings to figure out, okay, if this is going to need to take place, how should we set up the ground rules? What's the policies and procedures? What's going to ensure we're going to be comfortable? Now, this is not, clearly we got $1 million. We've had $1 million for the last X number of years. So it's not like we're in trouble. We're not at all, but we have to change kind of the rules of the game, if you will. So the council, first we'll be getting a recommendation from Chris's committee and another working committee associated with that. The council will have to approve it, and then we'll eventually come to you. No timing on that at this point in time, just wanted to let you know. Next slide. So we're okay for now. We have $1 million in cash. That's a good, I've been meeting with moderators of some of the other local churches. They have less cash. We're not unusual. A lot of churches our size across the nation and locally are facing the situation where they're running deficits, operating deficits, and they don't have that much cash on hand, and they have to face merger or closing or some other option. We are not in that position. Again, I'll keep coming back to the fact that we've got $1 million. We've got plenty of time to figure this out. But our recent trend is unsustainable. We can't run $100,000 deficits indefinitely. We need to respond to the challenge. Each one of us will need to actively participate in the effort. In other words, this is not my responsibility or Mike's responsibility as treasurer or Christian's responsibility as the pastor. This is our responsibility. Christian's role is probably there to help us, to support us, to good work, but he's not going to be leading it. You know, we have to be leading this effort. We have the faith, talent, and resolve to flourish. I firmly believe that. I mean, we've been doing a remarkable job over the years. You know, I feel there's more energy now. You know, I didn't mention one of what I think was the factors that kind of, over the past 3 years, that have, you know, resulted in our we've been going through a transition for the last 3 years. You know, we haven't had a leader. We haven't been able to kind of all pull together. You know, it's been discomforting, and that's no longer the case. You know, we've got an exciting, young, dynamic leader. That's you, in case you were wondering. That's you. And it's already apparent to me that virtually everybody in the congregation is already kind of more excited, more energy, doing more things, getting involved. And I think with that kind of momentum, this is all going to be turning over some transition. We're going to see certainly we'll see our assets dip a little bit, but then I fully expect them to be coming back. So my final word is, together we will make Chapel Hills a dynamic and enriching, dynamic meaning outward reaching, a lot of energy, and enriching meaning for ourselves and anyone else who joins us, you know, and a spiritual home for all. We are a church. But not everybody is looking to follow a particular spiritual path. And I am hoping that we will all welcome, you know, anybody who wants to participate in how we're experiencing our spiritual life. Not necessarily follow a particular liturgy, or it's just they feel welcome here, and they get a spiritual, find a spiritual home. So that's my way of trying to bring everybody up to speed without getting into too much detail, but trying to cover the basic points. So at this point, I'll pause and ask if anybody has any additions, comments, questions, because we're all in this together. Ron, he's got a mic for you. Thank you, Ron. Other comments or questions? Okay, appreciate it. The next and actually final order of business is there is a budget, the last couple of pages. I think it's the last couple of pages. Somebody tell me, is that right? Yep, we're on pages 30 and 31. The total budget amount is $268,632. If you go back to page 29, you'll notice that income is forecast, pledges came in at about 150,000. Unpledged, we are forecasting at 1,700, rent at 6,600. And there will be other income. So the income probably will get a little bit better than the 150. But if we just work with that 158 and we have a 268,000 budget, we are forecasting a deficit of about 110. Now I think, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd say almost always our actual deficit comes in under our budgeted. Is that a fair statement, Mike? Does that sound?
Depending on the stock returns.
Yeah, you can get hammered with the stocks, certainly, yeah. So I want you to be aware that when I was referencing we can't run $100,000 deficits indefinitely, we got to kind of get on top of that. We are asking you, the council is asking you to approve a budget that's going to generate about $110,000. My additional comment in that regard is that the council, and with your help, will be working diligently to grow membership, improve programs, expand our reach, raise more money, just talking about ways to improve our situation, but that wasn't, we didn't have the time or the energy or the foresight to do it prior to preparing this budget. But that will be our task during this coming year. Okay. So all that with that additional comment, again, any other comments from all of you? That being the case, I would ask for any questions regarding the budget specifically. I don't want to drag this on, but I also don't want to rush. In that case, could I have a motion to approve the budget? Tom? Did you get that, Julie? Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Joanne. So we have a first and a second, a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. The budget is adopted. Thank you all. Appreciate it. And I think that is about it. Closing remarks. I've talked enough. Yes, Stephanie? That will be getting a proposal. We don't have, that will come in we'll probably call a special for it. Or did you have something else you were suggesting? Okay, no, we will come back to the congregation with a proposal for how we need to access and it will be a vote of the congregation. I have a thought in that regard. Mumbling to myself here. Yes, Evan.
Thanks, Stacy, for putting together the annual report, which is really beautifully.
Yes, there's Stacy, of course, is in Arizona. Stacy does probably more from Arizona than most of us do here. So, yes, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Thanks, Evan. Anything else? Yeah, Joanne?
I would just like to say thank you for that expert explanation of the budget. That was so clear and so helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? The thought that occurred to me, maybe I shouldn't be bringing this up. Yeah, I should be bringing this up. If we only have $54,000 and we have a need to tap into the Enduring Fund before we get back to you, and maybe it's not a matter of getting back to you, maybe we just have an emergency meeting in the congregation. Barb, are we okay for like the first few months? Because I know some people make early contributions, which will bump the $54,000 up, and if we're only running $5,000 monthly deficits, we shouldn't have a problem. So getting back to your comment, Stephanie, I think we should have plenty of time to pull together a proposal and have a scheduled vote of the congregation before we would need to tap into the Enduring Fund. All right. Anything else? May I call on you?
No. Bob said this at first, but if you're like, oh, Christian's not saying anything in this meeting, check out the annual report, my thing that I wrote. I say a ton there. Spent lots of time writing that. So if you're curious about my thoughts about how the year's been, it's all there. So anyway, and again, thank you all so much for being here. So yeah, y'all pray with me. God, let us be sensitive to the direction you're calling us to move as individuals, as a community, oh God. Thank you so much for the people that make up this church. May we be sensitive to your voice, sensitive to your heart, oh God. We thank you so much for who you are and all that you do. We thank you so much for the opportunity to gather, to sing songs, to hear a word, to be a community, to eat together, to laugh together, to do business together. We thank you for us. We thank you that we're Chapel Hills, and may we just continue to put one foot in front of the other in faith, oh God, with the faith that you are leading the way, calling us to go where we need to go. It's in your many and holy, precious names we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Oh, I will. We brought a lot of sweets, so we need to remind you that they're out there. We kind of rushed you back in here with your kind of crackers and your cheese and whatever else you were able to pick up. There is going to be some, I'll call it brownie/cake, some cookies. So please help yourself to dessert as a reward for having come to the meeting and joined us. So thank you all. I will now officially announce the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.